So, good evening, everybody. I'm not really sure how many people are going to pop on here, so I am really not going to wait to see. I'm just going to keep going because I'm actually recording on my MacBook also. Ultimately, I'm trying to create a YouTube live where you can watch these things on there and they will be stored on there. But until I get to 1,000 followers, I can't do YouTube live from my phone. So I do have a YouTube channel that I'm putting together. There will be an editor that will be doing some of these things to my TikTok as well. So I am actually creating a channel while I learn this incredible piece of machinery that is in my new home. So for those of you who know me, some don't know me that well, but I have been a chef for nearly 30 years at this point. And just when you start to think you've seen most things, life throws you an AGA. I had absolutely no clue what I was looking at when I moved into this house. I had seen it when we came to look at the property, and I thought, oh my God, I was so excited. I had a French cooktop. I have worked in one professional kitchen in all of my life that had a French cooktop, and that was when I was working for Jose Garces in Philadelphia. Little did I know that I was not actually looking at a French cooktop. So a French cooktop, normally it has the gas cast iron burners, but you can pull the burners out, set woks down into them, set things down into them, and they're really great. So that's what I thought that I was looking at, and I was completely wrong. While we were in the process of moving into the house, we found a collection of cookbooks, and we thought that it was odd that there was cookbooks specifically for this. At this time, my daughter and I were referring to this as the AGA oven, and then I spent an evening researching it, and when I did that, I found out that it's actually said as AGA. It is a Swedish brand of oven that originally, when created, was an entirely coal-fired piece of equipment. And it is a very interesting thing to me because you never turn it off. You literally leave it on all of the time. So you always have it ready to use when you want to. You don't have to preheat your ovens. You don't have to preheat your burners. You just get your pans, you set them on there, and you just go from there. So it's going to be a learning curve for me to figure this thing out because it is so different than anything that I've ever done. I can tell you I was boiling myself some rice noodles for dinner the other night, and it boiled so fast that I am so completely sure that you guys are going to watch me have thousands of disasters while watching me do all of this stuff live. But that's okay, because what more fun can we have than you actually watching me learn this thing in real life? So let me show you a little bit around this. So up here is what I thought were the French cooktops. So this one here is the boiling plate. This is the high heat plate. This is for sauteing and boiling and things such as that. And then this one here is the low heat plate, which is designed to simmer, do sauces and things like that. So if you hold your hand over this one and over this one, it's very, very different in temperatures. And then this door here is actually where all of the power comes from. So I do not have one of the coal powered ones. I have one of the gas powered ones, but you turn it on, you get the gas flowing through it, you get the heat flowing through it, and then you set it to a certain temperature. I do have one video that I recorded the other night that when I get a chance to get it uploaded to the YouTube channel, I will put on there, but it's a 41-minute video, and so far I have not been able to get it to upload. It's been taking way too long, so I need to get on my high-speed internet once I get that hooked up on Friday so that I can get that uploaded. And then this actually radiates the heat. So down here is the heat source. The heat source comes up and it stays everything at a constant temperature at all times. So this stays at a constant temperature. This stays at a constant temperature. This door here is the roasting door. So what it does is it maintains the heat coming from all of the walls inside of it. And so this one is for roasting. This door here is for baking. It holds it at a constant temperature there and a constant moisture level for baking. This door here is what they call the simmer bake oven. I don't exactly know what that one means yet because I've never heard the term simmer bake, but we will learn that one somewhere along the line. And then this one over here is the warming oven, where you can just keep things in and keep them warm. So I do see that we do have some comments. I am not close enough to my camera to actually be able to see them. So if I don't respond to you right away, I'm not sure why we have no sound. Let's see. Do we have sound now? I'm just checking because Donna was saying that I didn't have sound. So I'm just checking to see if somebody says that we have sound before I try to figure out what is going on and why we don't have sound. Okay. So again, for the parts that you didn't catch sound to, if there were some. So this here is an AGA. It is a Swedish oven that for the longest time was actually not even available in the United States. So this is the high heat plate for boiling, sauteing, low heat plate for sauces simmering. This is the roasting oven. This is the baking oven. This is the simmer bake. No clue what that means, but we will get there. And this is the warming oven. And then up here we have a warming plate to set things on to keep them warm. So one of the things that I really expected when it came to the fact that this oven is constantly on was that I expected that you wouldn't be able to touch it. And it does get hot, but if you were to touch it fast like I just did, it's not going to burn you. These doors, they're not really that hot. This part is hotter. If I were to have the grandkids around, I would definitely need to keep them out of the kitchen if they were going to be, roughhousing and not being careful, or if Chaley was here, because the oven is always warm. The other night when I was using it for the first time, it definitely was not at the right setting. It was not high enough. It was not like this, because I could literally just sit my hand against it. And when I get that video uploaded, you will see that it didn't really flow exactly like it was supposed to. So we are going to learn this oven tonight with my very first gourmet meal. The other day I did a linguine with clam sauce for me and Glenn, and I did it with not quite at the right settings, like I said, so it worked, but it's a learning curve to learn something. Ooh, this is, let me get a different hot mitt because that silicone one is letting me heat through. So anyway, for dinner for tonight, while we learn this, we are going to have something that I'm cooking specifically for Gwen. She's been asking for. Gwen really loves duck. So I'm going to do a duck breast, and then I'm going to do squash 2 ways to serve with that, and some fennel. And so I'm going to put the first squash into the oven in the roasting pan first, because that should take a little while, and then that should be able to finish while we're there. So what we're going to have for tonight is we're going to have some spaghetti squash, which I've already cut in half and scooped all of the seeds and insides out of. And then we are going to have some delicata squash, which I have already cut into rings and gotten the seeds out of. What I do when I'm taking the seeds out of these and doing rings, which is my preferred way of doing it because I love to eat the skins with it, delicata is actually my very favorite squash, is I just use the biscuit cutters that I had so that I can actually just push it right down through, create a perfect circle, push it all the way through a little, and then you can just pop that inside right out, pull the biscuit cutter out, and you have the perfect little delicata squash circle. So this is actually something that I'm really, really loving serving to people during my tastings for my catered events that I'm really getting active with up here in Maine, is delicata squash and duck. And then I personally am not a fan of duck. It's just not to my liking. So I'm going to make myself a steak because I have to watch my iron levels, because I have not been able to see a doctor up here in Maine yet. And most of you who know me know that I have in the past had some very severe anemia and had to have infusions. So I have to be super careful and make sure that I get my iron intake up as much as I can. So we're gonna do a spaghetti squash that we're gonna do in some garlic butter, and then we're just gonna roast the delicata squash just with salt. And then the duck and the steak. So for my daughter's duck, I have already scored the top of it, and I have already seasoned it so that it'll be ready to go in here. So what I'm gonna do with the duck today is I did it with a Baharat spice, which is a North African spice blend. If you could smell it right now, it smells very, very close to a pumpkin spice scent. Baharat is cardamom and cumin and coriander, peppers, nutmeg, cloves, a lot of the things that would be in our pumpkin spices, but with the cumin and coriander. Traditionally in the North African dishes, it's served on lamb, chicken, but we're gonna do it on my daughter's duck. And you can see some of these bigger pieces. What that is Tasmanian pepperberry, one of my absolute favorite spices to work with. A couple of years ago, I was in Freeport, Maine, and I had found this tiny, tiny, tiny little spice shop that was down underneath the outlets in Freeport. And it had some very eclectic spices from around the world that I had never heard of. So I had to purchase one of every one of them and take them home and learn about them. And Tasmanian pepperberry is one of my absolute favorites. It's really hard to come by. It's not available all of the time. And I actually end up getting emails letting me know when it is available so that I know when to order it. So if you've never come across Tasmanian pepperberry, if you could smell the smell in my kitchen just while I was crushing it, you would understand why I love it so much. But the smell when it's cooking is even more intense. So actually that is what I have done with my steak, as well as I've done the Tasmanian pepperberry, and I've salted it generously on both sides so that the flavors of it really, really, truly come out. So I have went ahead and I have melted some butter on the simmer plate just so that I had that ready. And I'm gonna go ahead and get the squash into the oven. So if you're going to do any kind of a squash like this that has a dense outside, if you do it so that it is skin side up when you do it, it's going to help steam the flavors into it. So I know it doesn't make any sense that I just dipped the outside in the butter, but the butter is going to melt and come down onto the pan as it cooks too. So, and then once this comes out, we will scoop the spaghetti squash out and do that. So let me get this into the oven. I have absolutely no clue how long it is going to take to roast the spaghetti squash in this oven. So we may be here a while. So I'm going to do that part first while we get the rest of it going. So that is in. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my delicata and also dip it in the butter. And so I have that already. I will salt that when I get ready to cook it on the pan. And what I'm going to do is I am actually going to put my butter on the high temperature burner, and I'm going to put my fennel into there as soon as I get that up to temp so that I can do a fennel butter. So fennel, or as it's also known, I should pull this bowl out before I have my hand covered in butter. As it's also known, is anise, and it is the natural flavor of licorice. I personally do not like black licorice. However, I love fennel. So we're gonna saute. So just like that, we're already up to 10. So we're gonna saute this fennel so that we can get the flavor through that butter. Excuse me, my hand is literally coated in butter. And then we'll go ahead and take the fennel out of there, set it aside, finish it in the pan a little bit later with some, let's get it nice and brown, and then add that to the dish. So one other thing that I do want to mention while I am sauteing this and getting this butter flavored with that, I really, truly love using all parts of something when I'm using it. I love what my mentor, when I was in culinary school and when I was just getting out of culinary school, I worked for someone in Pittsburgh named Joseph Miko. And he was huge into teaching us total product utilization. So he really wanted us to use all parts of something and not discard things. So I did save the seeds from the inside of the squash so that I could pan roast them and use them on the plate, because pumpkin seeds are also really great for iron. They're actually one of the best sources of natural thing that you can get to add iron to your diet. So we are at a really, really good, if you can see, a really good simmer going on over here, and it's really starting to saute well. So we're gonna let that go. So I was telling you a little bit about the Tasmanian pepperberries. I'm gonna show you them up close while we get that going. So these are the Tasmanian pepperberries. They look very similar to like the dried elderberries that I use when I make my tonic, but they have such an intense smell. I really can't even tell you how intense the smell of these is. And one of my other things that I really like to use, and I think that I'm going to use these two together right now, is dried limes. So this is a jar of crushed dried limes that I have, but this is the actual dried lime. So what this is in Middle Eastern cooking, so in the Middle East, they just lay whole limes out on tarps and allow them to sun dry. This is what they end up looking like. And then you just take this and you crush it, and you create a powder, and you just sprinkle it on things. And it is mind-blowing, the depth of flavor. Just a little teeny sprinkle of that will give something. So I'm gonna add some dried lime to mine as well. Maybe to Gwen's too, with the Baharat spice. I think it would taste pretty good, because the Baharat does have orange peel in it too. So let's go ahead and add that. So I have had my steak over here dry brining for a bit with the salt and the Tasmanian pepperberry on it. And as much as people would probably think that I wouldn't like to use a lot of pre-made things, I'm really going to tell you, I actually love having these stir-in pastes in my refrigerator because it's really, really easy to buy things and not use it in time, and then they go bad. So I have the parsley, I have the garlic, I have lemongrass, I have ginger. I have all of these things in there all the time because it's like using the fresh product, but without the risk of losing them before you have a chance to use them. So And we're gonna finish my daughter's duck when we do it with some pomegranate molasses. So, all right. So I would say we probably have this at a pretty good level of flavor, and the fennel at this point is pretty soft. But I don't want to overcook it because I want to saute it and brown it later and have it still have some crispness. So I'm going to go ahead and scoop the majority of the fennel out of the butter and keep the butter to cook the other items in. So actually, while I am doing that, I'm going to get, so there is cookware here that specifically came with the AGA. This is one of them. So it's a cast iron with grill marks. I'm gonna go and get that hot. I'm gonna use that to do my delicata. So I'm gonna put that on there, get some grill marks, pop it in the oven so it can finish with the other squash that's in there. I have to tell you, if anybody on here is watching from working with me at the soup kitchen, they're gonna be like, why does she have pot holders? It feels really super strange to actually be using a pot holder to do this because I'm so used to using towels, which is what we do in professional kitchens. But I don't have those towels here at my house, so here we are with a pot holder. All right, so I have that over there. I'm gonna keep the fennel butter sitting right here. I can see that's getting nice and toasty, so let me grab my sea salt. I'm gonna go ahead and put the squash on. So you can see how quick this gets things nice and warm. It really, really does make it super easy and super fast to do an entire meal in a lot less time. Not sure how well the oven is going to do with the squash and how long that'll take, but I guess we will find out. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this in the oven lid. So I'm going to use a cast iron to do my daughter's duck. So we're going to get that on, get that nice and warm, and then I'll put a little bit of the fennel butter in there and hard sear the top of that, and then flip it. I'm going to probably finish that one in the simmer oven and just test out the difference between the ovens because I really don't know what to expect. So with duck you can kind of do that the way that you would do steak. So, you know, cook it to whatever temp you want. You don't need to cook duck all the way through like you would with chicken breast. So, so we are already at temp with this. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of butter in the pan. See what I mean? How fast that got to temp. Oh, that smells so good. don't always have, you know, things like baccarat spice sitting around in my house, but I did an anniversary dinner for a couple who live in Boston, and one of them spent some time in Ethiopia and Northern Africa. So I had done some oyster mignonette that I did with African spices, and they were so in love with that. So what I'm noticing right now as I'm doing this is that it is sizzling really well, and it seems super hot, but it's really not doing the quick sear that I expected it to do. So as I learn this oven more, I will realize that just because I have the sizzle of the oil doesn't mean that I'm at the point of sear that I would like to have. But it's not bad. It's got some nice browning. It's a little bit more brown on this side than on the other side. So, I will, as I go also, I will learn the hot spots of this and where things are. But as you can see over here, we have a nice browning. Over here, not as much. So, this is literally only my second time doing anything with this AGA. And we will see how well I can learn it. So I'm going to try to, so what I'm noticing is that when I set it down, I'm getting more of a sizzle on the outside of the pan than on the inside of the pan. So I'm not sure if I can move this plate like you can with a French cooktop, but my guess is the ring of flames is out here and not in here, and that's why the outside of the pan is sizzling more than the inside of the pan. There we go. Now we have a nice, good sear and browning going on with that one. And I'm going to go ahead and take that and pop it into the simmer oven to finish. And then I am going to put the fennel butter back on. Get that nice and hot so that I can do my oven roasted pumpkin seeds, or my pan roasted pumpkin seeds that I'm going to use on my plate as well. And I did not keep out a pan to do the garlic butter noodles. So let me grab that and set it there. So it's warm, but not completely hot at this time. When I'm ready. So we're getting a nice bubble from the pan, but like I saw on the last one, just because I see that doesn't mean that it's at the point that I want it to be. So I'm going to butter baste my ribeye, and just want to get a pan at the right temperature before I do too much with it. So I'm actually going to test it with a touch of water just to see. If the side of it that I want to put this on is at the right temp. Okay, I think we're pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead, take my steak. I'm going to throw it with the side down that has the Tasmanian pepperberry first, so that continues to flavor the butter as it's cooking. And then with the butter basting, I'm just going to continue to spoon the fennel butter over the top of it while it cooks. was going to do my pumpkin seeds, and then I just didn't. So I guess we will do them after I do the steak. So that'll be fine, because one probably will end up eating half the steak too, because I cannot eat this entire steak, that is for sure. So while that is cooking a little bit on that side, I'm going to get some butter, throw it into that pan for the spaghetti squash. And I'm doing mine with garlic, parsley, and locatelli pecorino romano cheese. So. Maybe I will add just a touch of red pepper flakes to that, so it just has a hint of spice as well. I'm going to take my cutting board out and set it over here with some paper towel underneath it, so that when I take my steak and my duck and rest it for a second before I get ready to serve it, it has a chance to bleed out a little if it does, without getting all over my counter. So the butter over here on the simmer plate is a really nice brown butter right now, but I'm going to move it so that it's not burnt butter, because I can tell you there have been more than a few times in my life that I have accidentally burnt butter, and I think that is probably an accurate statement about most chefs. You start doing something else and you forget that you have butter sitting there cooking, and the next thing you know it is burnt. And there is nothing quite like the smell of burnt butter. Or burnt sugar, for that matter. Because this stays hot all the time, I have to get in the habit of not setting things on it, because it's something that I'm really not used to, the whole thing being warm like that. It really reminds me of when I was growing up. We had a wood stove in my grandparents' house, and we had a wood stove in my grandparents' garage, and I feel right now like I would be making dinner on top of a wood stove right now. That's the general way that I could describe it. Reminds me of when we used to tap maple trees for sap, and we would have the sap boiling in the garage to make our own maple syrup. It's very similar to that, just the sounds of everything, and the and the consistent temp of the top of this, as opposed to cooking with gas or an electric stove that has its points because of where the heat is, but because this has a plate that sits there continuously, with the heat on it, it's not like that, and it's very odd to me compared to what I've been doing for 30 years, but I can completely see why this is such an amazing piece of equipment and why it makes things so simplified, because that it is so consistent in temperature. For those of you who don't really know the rule of thumb on how we decide what temp steaks are, we chefs use, you know, the sense of touch to kind of figure out where we think things are in wellness. So this would be a well done. This would be medium well, medium rare. So you can do this until you get used to the sense of touch. But once you've been doing it a while, you kind of just know it, I feel. Right now, I would say that I'm probably at about a medium rare. I'm going to go for a medium on this just because I don't want it to bleed out too much over there on the board while the other things are cooking. So I am going to go ahead and check my squash. So the delicata is looking perfect. This is the top. So it was sitting on the bottom of the oven, so it's a little bit dark on this side, but it's not burnt. But had I left it much longer, it definitely would have been well into the burnt point. So good to know how hot that gets. And then I am going to test this. So this is feeling really, really good, actually. I didn't say this is going to take much longer. Pretty sure that spaghetti squash takes not only, you know, a pretty decent amount of time in a regular oven. So the fact that it feels like it's almost there is pretty impressive. So all right, I'm going to go ahead and get my steak off and let it rest over here. And while that is resting, I'm going to go ahead and hand roast my pumpkin seeds. And I'm just going to flavor those with just regular salt. Well, Himalayan salt, but you know, salt and pepper. Nothing enhanced spice-wise, because I have a lot of flavors already going on the plate, so I don't really want to overwhelm things. And then when I take these off, I'm going to put them on paper towel to finish, draining the oil off. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish the fennel in that pan while I'm waiting for the other things to finish up on it for me. So I think when I do the fennel, actually I'm going to deglaze it a little bit with some wine, with some cooking wine, because there's a lot of flavor that's on the bottom of that pan right now from the butter and the fennel and the steak and now the pumpkin seeds. But I don't really want to lose or leave behind, so. I'm going to go ahead and get the squash off of there. And I'm going to go ahead and plate that up just so that it's continuously cooking on that other side. Because it is so dark from being in the bottom of that oven. And again, it is not burnt, but he's definitely very close to her. So, as I told you, you guys were gonna learn this as I learn it. And if that means that it's not the most perfect thing that I've done, oh well. One of the nice things about this kitchen, well, I mean, quite frankly, I can't really stop and list just one of the nice things about this kitchen. And I know I will learn over the course of time not to turn my back to y'all so much, but is that it has so many features to it that just blow my mind. The way that the wealthy put things together. Not the way that I'm used to life, that is for sure. So these are nice and round and crispy, not too dark, but just a nice light browning. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those off of here and onto the paper towel that I have moved. And I'm not sure if my laptop is still recording me or not because nothing is showing on the screen. So we'll find out if I even have anything to upload to YouTube on this one. So, see, this thing's I have to watch because that could have definitely caught fire because of how hot that is. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and finish my fennel. Once I have that a little bit brown, I'm going to go ahead and deglaze the pan with the white wine. Let me check on spaghetti squash. I would say it's probably pretty good and done. So, I'm going to use the silicone one because I can hopefully hold this with it. Let's see if this is gonna, oh yes, perfect. So this is a perfectly roasted spaghetti squash, let me tell you. I am very minimally doing anything to get this squash out of here in its little stringies. So it is nice. See, forget, this is not a normal thing. I can't just set something up there and just leave it there. So I'm going to go ahead and put my butter back over here. Grab my garlic and parsley, get that into my butter. This is nice. I'm going to get my white wine, throw it into there. I'm just going to let that cook down with the wine, pull all the flavors into the fennel from the bottom of the pan. And then, like I said, I'm going to add just a touch of red pepper flake to the spaghetti squash. Because there's a lot of flavors on the plate, but there's nothing that's going to have a hint of spice. I like things to have a little bit of spiciness to them. I got that. So This stove, I'm not sure exactly how much this model was or would be exactly at this point in time. But if you were to purchase a new AGA stove for your home at this point, $31,000 piece of equipment, which is pretty insane to me, even as somebody who loves cooking and does this for a living. I find it to be pretty silly, the idea of spending that kind of money. But I guess if you can and you want to, I would definitely say that I would not say that it is not worth it. However, the new version is an electric version, and I kind of question how well that compares to the originals. So, let me get my duck out of here because I forgot it was in here in the simulator. Let me get that over here to rest for Gwen. And I've got the garlic and parsley pretty into the spaghetti squash. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the locatelli. And then after I add the locatelli, then I'm going to add salt. I don't want to do salt first because the Parmesan cheese is going to add its own level of saltiness. And it's very easy to end up with a dish that's over salted. If you salt with a Parmesan cheese or a Romano cheese, or a feta cheese even, and then you've already salted the dish, you're going to end up with a salty dish. So, I like to eat this also with wilted spinach in it. I don't have any spinach today, so it is without it today. So you can definitely use a bit of salt. I'm going to do the brown Himalayan, but I do have kosher salt if I wanted to do it with the kosher salt as well. All right, so I know you might think, why would you have two squash? There is nothing really similar about these two squash, let me tell you. They are both very unique in flavor and texture. So it's not really like you're like having a butternut and an acorn squash. Now with that on, I'm going to go ahead and move that over to the warming plate so it can stay warm, because I'm going to tell you I will be back eating the rest of it. Absolutely. I love spaghetti squash. I really love spaghetti squash cooked this way. The only way I would like it better is if it had the spinach in it. So the fennel is nice and cooked up with the wine and pulled all of the browning and the flavor from there. You can see that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the meats and get them plated. So you can see, I'm gonna bring this over close to you. I said I was going for a nice medium. Here's what I have. So that will be plenty of steak for me because I can't eat that much. Let's get Gwen's duck cut open. Her duck is a nice, I would say it's also a nice medium. So we're gonna get her duck plated up. And then we're just gonna top this off with some of the fennel. Dish, we're going to do pomegranate molasses on the duck. Because it's my own kitchen, I can lick my fingers. Now we're going to finish it with some crunchiness of pumpkin seeds. And some of the green fennel fronds, just for color. It stuck to my finger because of pomegranate molasses. And there you have it. Here is Gwen's dinner. So we have squash two ways. We have the roasted delicata squash. We have the spaghetti squash that is cooked with the locatelli, garlic, parsley, her duck breast, which is flavored with Tasmanian pepperberry, Baharat spice, and what did we add? We added some, oh, and no, I think that was it. Yes. And then my steak is with the Tasmanian pepperberry. And not the Baharat spice. And here is my dish. Again, the squash two ways, the fennel, the ribeye steak, and then the crunchiness of the pumpkin seeds. So, with the exception of the fact that we got a little bit dark on the bottom side of the delicata, I didn't lose too badly to this stove, but it's still going to be a challenge learning the little intricacies of it. There probably will be some big disasters along the way as I try to figure it out. But if you're willing to join me on my journey, follow me over to my YouTube page. Once I have 1,000 followers on there, I will be able to do my lives directly from YouTube. And then we will see where this takes me in the world. Thank you for joining me tonight. Bye.